How are you doing?
Jack, I'm doing good today. Thank you.
Great.
I just finished playing a squash game against a guy by the name of Clyde, who he beat me 3-0 today.
Oh.
And so I was a little bit frustrated about that. And going back to the drawing board to figure out what's a new strategy for me to use so that I can come away with a victory against him.
Is he a professional?
No, we're both amateurs, but we're both A players. Mm-hmm. And I played squash because I loved squash, tennis, badminton as cross sports. I found that they were very good as far as helping out with conditioning and hockey.
Yes.
Also hand-eye coordination, and also the ability to think on the court, various strategies on the goal. Yet today he played very, very well, and I'm happy though that I did not snap my racket in half, because I easily could have today. I was quite a little bit frustrated.
There's a lot of kids watching. Can you explain squash, exactly what kind of a sport it is? A lot of kids out here in this area don't know.
Okay, well, squash is actually played in a enclosed area, and there's 4 walls, and the racket it's a smaller size than a tennis racket, and what is used is a small black ball, and while a tennis ball is probably about 3 times the size of it, maybe 4 times. So it's a smaller black ball, and it's made out of rubber, and so it doesn't bounce as much. But so what happens is so the player can hit the ball, and there's a tin that runs across the front, and it measures about a foot up in the up. Mm-hmm. So any ball that gets hit into that tin loses a point. So all the balls have to be hit above that, and then there's lines that run up the side of the court, and so the ball has to be hit into that area. Yeah, so it's an incredible workout. And like we played today, we ended up playing 5 games altogether, and in the end my shirt was just wringing wet. And very, very good for the legs, the coordination, and also get that endorphin rush at the end.
That's awesome. In the last segment, you mentioned that you wanted to talk about Gordie Howe's jersey and Bobby Howe. Something that happened.
Yeah, this is a story that almost nobody would know about. Uh-huh. And yet it's a true story. And I'm not going to say what city or who the equipment manager was, or actually it was the towel guy.
Oh.
Because he might not appreciate it, and he might sue me. So I'm just going to tell that this is a true story, and it's got all sorts of kind of interesting pieces to it. So this goes back to 1978. I was playing in 77, 78. I was playing with the Houston Aeros, and we were on a road game. And what happens is, like during a practice, there's just all sorts of wash that has to be done. Mm-hmm. Like, so what happens is, and so if we played somewhere else the night before and then we came into a city, a lot of times all the wet underwear, none of it got washed. So it would get thrown into these hockey bags. Mm-hmm. And when we would get into the new city, the trainers would go straight to the arena while we would go to the hotel to get some sleep. They would go and unpack all the hockey equipment. Mm-hmm. Like, the trainers are amazing. Yeah. So they would unpack all the hockey equipment. They would get all the underwear washed so it'd be ready for the next day. And plus they would get all the hockey jerseys washed. And so that when we would come to the dressing room, everything would be hung up, and we'd have fresh underwear. We'd have our practice jerseys would get washed, and the game jerseys. So everything was ready to roll. Now what would happen is, so there would be guys in the visiting city that would meet our trainers, our equipment guys, and they would help them. So this happened in every city. And so what happens is, so it was the morning, like we had played on the road, we got to the city, and so we had a morning skate, and I was typically one of the last guys off the ice after a practice or after a morning skate. And so what happened, I was one of the last guys in the restroom, and I was just getting out of my equipment, and our equipment guy in Houston, his name was Bobby Kincaid, and he was a real redneck Texan, and he was a very, very friendly guy, although when he lost his temper, he had a heck of a temper. And so it ends up that I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden Bobby comes in the dressing room, and he's got this other guy with him, and he is saying, "I know you've got it. I know you've got that jersey. Give it back to me." And the other guy, the equipment guy, or the towel guy, towel boy that helped with all the getting everything washed. Because what happened is we'd get to the city, and this towel boy, he'd get the bags, and he'd take all the underwear and throw them in the washers, get all the jerseys, throw them in the washers. And so Bobby Kincaid, our equipment guy, was just yelling at him. He says, "I know you've got that jersey. Give it back to me. Give that jersey back." And he says, "Honest," he says, "I do not have it." This other guy, the towel boy, he says, "I haven't got it. I don't know what happened to it." And Bobby says, "Well, last night that jersey got put in the wash. Where's it today?" He says, "I don't know. I don't know what happened to it." And so what had happened is Gordie Howe's jersey had disappeared.
Oh, my gosh.
So that night, Gordie actually played with, I believe they managed to get a jersey, but they had to actually pin his name bar on it. So it didn't look 100% professional, because the name bar was kind of sticking up because it wasn't sewn all the way around. And but anyway, so
what number did he wear?
I believe he wore number 9 that night.
He did wear number 9. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Although I'm not 100% sure about that. Bobby Kincaid would know for sure if we ever wanted to give him a call. So it ended up that so that was just the way that finished off. And then Houston ended up folding that year, and it ended up that that's when 7 players from the Houston Aeros got purchased by the Winnipeg Jets of the World Hockey Association. And so we ended up relocating to Winnipeg. And the guys that were in that deal there was myself, Terry Wiskowski, Rich Preston, Scott Campbell, John Gray, Steve West, and Paul Travanci. So we ended up relocating them. So this is about 3 months into the season, and we're back in that city playing another road game again. And we had played somewhere the night before, so this whole thing again, we show up into the city. Our equipment guy turns all the bags of underwear and jerseys over to this towel guy to get washed.
What, same guy?
It was the same guy, but different. Our trainer is different. Instead of Bobby Kincaid, in Winnipeg, we had a guy from New Westminster, BC, and his name was Kelly Pruden. And Kelly had been the trainer for the Estevan Bruins in the Western Hockey League, and the New Westminster Bruins in the Western Hockey League before he had landed a job with the Winnipeg Jets in the World Hockey Association. So there I am. It's the end of the pre-morning skate, and I'm literally the last guy in the room. And son of a gun, if it isn't deja vu all over again, Kelly comes in and he is screaming at this guy. He says, "I know you got it." He says, "That jersey was there last night when I loaded those jerseys into the wash. That jersey was there." And he says, and this guy says, "I don't know what happened to it. I don't know what happened to it." And Kelly says, "I know you stole it. I know you got it. Give it back." And the guy says, "I don't know what happened to it. I don't know what happened to it." And so it ends up that jersey that got stolen was Bobby Hull's.
Oh, he picked good players, this guy.
Yeah, so it ended up that Bobby had to play with a different jersey that night. And somehow Kelly, I think, was a little bit better prepared than Bobby Kincaid with Houston. And Kelly was able to get a jersey replacement, or maybe he had one. And so there wasn't like Bobby's jersey looked 100% that night. But I remember Gordie's had to be, they pinned his name tag on, like his name bar.
Yeah.
So, and it did not look 100%. You could see the edges were curled up. And but anyway, so this happens twice. So years later, it ends up, I happen to be in this city, and I somehow run into this towel boy, this towel guy, who's now, he's about 15 years older. So it ends up, we go for lunch. And I was in this, I'm not wanting to name the city. No. So it ends up that, but I was in this city, and it ends up that, so we ended up getting together for lunch. So we get chatting or whatever. And it ends up that what comes up is that he has this incredible collection of hockey sticks, hockey pucks, and hockey jerseys.
Wow.
And so this has happened in more than one city. This also happened in Winnipeg, where the Towel boys, just young guys, who would ask for Bobby Hull's stick and autograph, or just at the right time they would get a stick, or they would collect pucks. They ended up with collections that were incredible, absolutely incredible, and worth millions.
Wow. So
it ends up this guy, we're having lunch, and somehow we get talking about, he brings us up and we get talking about this, and supposedly he has been offered like $5 million by a collector in New York for his collection. And his collection is, if I remember somewhere around, he had something like 600 hockey sticks, 800 pucks.
Wow. That's a big collection.
And about 250 jerseys.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it was an incredible collection. And then I said, well, wow, so what, you're a millionaire. So here's the towel boy. Ends up being the millionaire, while the rest of us who were out on the ice killing ourselves, we didn't make the millions. It ends up he makes the millions.
He sold the collection or no?
So he hadn't sold it at that time. So I asked, well, how come you haven't sold it? He says, well, because he thinks it's worth a lot more. So he's going to hang on to it for a little bit longer. And he said he was also waiting for when Wayne Gretzky would be finished his career, because he felt then that it would be even of more value then, because he had a number of Gretzky items. So the thing is, so we were sitting there, and I said, well, Keeper, so where is it? And he says, well, I've got it in a whole bunch of trunks at my home. And I said, well, wow, you got to make sure that that's insured and all that. And he said, well, yeah, he says, it's safe. And I said, you know what, what about putting it on exhibition? Like you could put it somewhere out in public where people could come and look at it, and like they could pay $10 or whatever to see this collection. Yeah. Like you could probably make a lot of money from this. Yeah. And he says, well, yeah, he says I said, wow, this one place would be perfect. Like if you were to put it there, like you would get thousands of people looking at this. Like you could make a heck of a lot of money off it right now while you're waiting for it to go up in value. And what a treat it would be for hockey fans. He says, yeah. He says, you know what? No, I don't think I'm going to do that. And then so I went, oh, okay. So I was then later, I was thinking, well, like, why wouldn't he? Yeah. And the reason is because he had a whole lot of stolen property.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like in that collection, and I remember I asked him, wow, like, so do you happen to have Gordie's jersey? Do you happen to have Bobby's jersey? And he says, yeah.
You knew him though. You knew him before, right? You knew that he was a towel boy, right?
I knew, yeah, because it was in the dress.
But did you knew that he stole, or you didn't know at that time?
No, at times I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, and so I was believing him that he when he was saying that no, he hadn't taken them, and he was so adamant. He was absolutely so adamant that he had not taken them, and so then, but then I said, wow, like I says, like, whose jerseys do you have? And he was naming jerseys, and I said, do you happen to have Gordie's jersey? Oh, yeah. Do you happen to have Bobby's jersey? Oh, yeah.
Did he have yours?
Pardon me?
Did he have yours?
No.
Oh, none?
Oh. No. I wasn't big enough shot to.
So he only collected like certain guys, or he just got whatever he can get?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, he didn't tell you
what his collection. All I know is that when I asked about some of the jerseys he had, and but he had Bobby and he had Gordie Smith. So, anyways, here he had stolen these jerseys. Yeah. So it was, but it was amazing because the second time it happened, it was like deja vu all over again. Like literally, I was just undoing my skates, and it was like time repeating itself. And the trainer yelling and screaming, I know you have stolen, and I know you got it. Give it back. And no, I haven't got it. No, I haven't. I don't know what happened to it. It was like the exact conversation.
Wow.
Over twice.
Wow.
Yeah. And then to find out years later that he has this collection, and then he refuses to put it on display.
Yeah.
Because of many of the stolen items in it.
Yeah. It's tough to find a buyer too, sure.
Isn't that wild?
It's crazy. Yeah. I was going to ask you, I remember hearing about the blue pucks being used in the World Hockey Association. They were doing an experiment. I think they also tried orange pucks, like the color orange pucks, and then the blue ones. And they were the same weight and everything. But what did you recall about that?
You know what? I remember seeing, I believe, the orange puck used in the very first year of the WHA. There was a televised game between the team that was in Oakland, because Wayne Carleton was playing in the game, if it was Oakland or San Francisco. And I thought that they were playing against the LA team, which I believe at the time was called the Sharks.
Yeah, LA Sharks, right? That's correct.
Yeah. And that night, an orange puck was used. And I remember watching that, thinking it was pretty cool. Then also, I one time saw the blue puck used in a game that was, I believe, with the Winnipeg Jets and somebody. And the thing was, they did not last very long, either one. I'm not sure how long they lasted, but it ended up that the goaltenders, I believe, had a tough time seeing them, and they went back to the black puck.
I got to ask Michel Dion when I talked to him, because he played around that era in the WHA. I want to ask what he thought. I forgot to ask him.
Right, or you know what? I could give you the phone number for Jerry Cheevers.
Oh, really? Cheesy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, I believe, he's just such a good guy.
He played for Cleveland. I think he played for the Crusaders.
Yes, I believe he did, and he was the coach in Boston when I got traded there.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. It was. He was a very good coach. He was a different kind of coach. I've got some good Jerry Cheever stories, and with him as a coach, and also there was one time when he was playing. And I think it was Boston. I think it was because I believe he came back and played with Boston.
Yes.
And there was one time I got somehow cross-checked and I went flying into the net, and he had to sort of like jump up over me as I went crashing into the goal. And I remember as I turned over, he was above me, and he had his goalie stick up in the air, and it looked like he was just going to bring it right down on my face.
Oh.
And it ended up, he sort of went to start, and then he stopped. And actually last summer, I was in a golf tournament with him in Saskatoon, and I asked him if he happened to remember it, the moment. He said that he did, that he was kind of really miffed at me that I went sailing through the crease. But he said for the last second something stopped him from doing it.
And he had
it looked like he was going to bury the heel of his stick.
Oh, man. Oh. He had also the stitches on the mask, which is my favorite goalie mask of all time.
Yeah.
I love that mask.
Yeah, that mask was, and actually I believe it was one of the very first, and it may have been the very first decorated mask.
Oh, really?
Well, I'm attempting to think who did one first.
I got to ask the guy who does goalie. Yeah.
He was the very first goaltender to put something on his mask, and then other goalies started to do that after him.
Yeah.
And his was the stitches of where every time he got hit in the face by a puck, he asked the trainer how many stitches he would have got there, and he said, well, that would have been a dozen, so they put a dozen on his mask.
Let me tell you, don't tell the towel boy about it, because the mask would have been gone.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of an interesting story. And by the way, it's a true one.
Yeah, it's amazing. Hockey stories out there. We would have never known if we didn't ask, right?
And then I know that there's two young guys in Winnipeg that they worked with the visiting teams, and the one guy has a very European name, and something like Thor or something like that. But it ended up those guys just collected, and they have collections that are worth millions.
Wow, amazing. Wow. Yeah. Also, you mentioned your teammate Dave Babbage winning the strength test. Can you explain that one? We were talking about that the other day.
Yeah, like Dave Babbage, when he came to Winnipeg, like he was one of the strongest players, and he may have been the strongest player and the most solid player that I ever played with. And like he just was like, I think about 215 pounds of just absolute steel.
Wow.
And it ended up that like for example, there was one time a guy by the name of Delorme from the Vancouver Canucks. The game was in Winnipeg, and Babs was skating down the left side of the ice, right in front of his right in front of his bench. This guy by the name of Delorme, who was a big guy. I'm forgetting his first name right now.
Ron
Delorme. Yeah, thank you. Was a big guy himself and a pretty good fighter. Went and he thought he had Babs lined up, and he went to just crush him. And literally, it was like a mosquito hitting the Hulk.
Wow. And
Ron hit him, and Ron literally melted. It was like broken glass. Wow. And Babs, it was unreal. It was like he hit him, Delorme hit him as hard as he could, and it was almost like Babs didn't even feel the hit.
Wow, that's tough.
And as he was coming in kind of the last second, he just braced his shoulder, even though he was handling the puck, and Delorme hit him and just went straight down the ice. It was one of the most impressive demonstrations, because Delorme was taking a run at him from probably about 25 feet away.
Wow.
Yeah. So, anyways, in this year that Dave came to our camp, we did some testing. It was the Jets at that time were just starting to get into testing athletes. We did everybody had to show up and do a 12-minute run, and so the expectation was that players would be in shape right on very day one of camp, and which I always was. And I used that as an advantage to be 100% prepared, ready to go. Yeah. And anyways, we did these testing, and they had this deal that was a wrist gripper. So you had you had to put your hand up in the air and then bring it down to our side and squeeze it as hard as you could. And it could actually like a meter. It had a reading.
Is it like an arcade one? The one that the arcade they have? That one where you grip tight and you put a quarter in? One of those or no?
Probably something similar. But this was just, it was on its own, and it was worked on a spring. But anyways, like I got it up to about 45, and a good buddy of mine, Ron Wilson, he got it up to about 47. And then Babs did it, and I remember he got it up to like 68. Wow. And like we were standing there, and we couldn't believe it. Like, wow. And afterwards, we snuck back in, Ron and I, and the two of us tried to get that thing up to 68. Both of us at the same time, squeezing on it. Wow. And we couldn't do it. Wow. We could not. And so,
crazy.
Yeah. So Dave Babbage was just one of the strongest and solid players I've ever played with.
Yeah, he was a nice guy. I got to interview him. Really nice. he had some great hockey stories also. And
yeah. No, there was actually one night in Winnipeg. I was not playing in this game. I was injured. I was sitting up in the stands at the end of one end of the arena, and Dave ended up getting the puck at the point, and he took this slap shot goal, and somebody's stick got in the way and it deflected, but the stick didn't take much momentum off the puck, so the puck went flying over the glass. And what happened in the second tier, because at that time they didn't have netting around the rink, so the thing clears the glass and it keeps going. And then what happened in the second tier in the Winnipeg Arena, there was a wheelchair section. And so there were these, and so they had another layer of glass, plexiglass, that ran in front of these people who were in wheelchairs in order to protect them. And son of a gun, if that puck, he shoots it from the blue line, so it has to travel all the way to the net, so that's like 60 feet, clears the glass, and then it's probably about another 40 feet or so to where these wheelchair sections are in this plexiglass. Son of a gun, the puck doesn't hit the glass, and the glass explodes. Ooh. And there's glass all over these people that are sitting in wheelchairs. Man. So he breaks one of these pieces of glass, which, and often, by the way, the glass will explode sometimes when the puck hits the glass on the edge, or if it hits it flat. And somehow the energy, I've seen it where the puck hits on the edge, like on the edge of the puck, and I've seen it when the puck is flat. And both times the glass, somehow it sends a vibration through the glass that just, it explodes. And that happened. And so it was quite funny in a way, except that there was this glass on these people sitting in wheelchairs. The thing is, Babs was out on the ice and he was kind of giving it the big shoulder flex and everything.
Did they stop the game or did they keep playing? I mean, that's up in the stands.
No, what happened was in the arena there was just a great big like, ooh, wow, through the entire place, and so it stopped the game for a moment, and until they got another puck and got out there and faced it off. But during that time, like, Babs was giving the muscle flex and all the guys were laughing. It was a pretty cool moment.
You know, he had 100 points as a defenseman in the junior league. It's crazy.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. He had
a very good shot. He had a good shot. He was a good passer. And it took a lot to get him mad, though. Like, and I think he did not like the idea of fighting. I think he felt it was not necessary or didn't belong.
I never saw anybody pick on him or anything. I just never saw that. Watching him play, I think people respected him because he was so, maybe, they were afraid of him.
Well, if anybody would have, he probably would have taken them and bent them in half or snapped them in half because he was incredibly strong.
Yeah. He also had a teammate named Jim Kite who had a hearing impaired. He was deaf, I think.
Yeah, Jim was a very good defenseman and also a very tough defenseman. He could throw the punches really, really good. As a matter of fact, one time him and Gordie from the Boston Bruins had a fight in Boston where they literally threw hundreds of punches. And Jim won that one. And he got the best of Gord that night.
How did he communicate out there when the game was going on? I'm sure his peripheral vision was great, but how did you guys?
Well, I think he had hearing aids, although I'm not sure about that. That would be a question for Jim. I do know there was times when Howard Chuck, though, would say something, and it had maybe Jim was included in what was being said, and Jim literally didn't hear it. So then I forget what Dale called him. He had a nickname for him, and he yelled this nickname at him and say, "Hey, I'm talking to you." And
but when the whistle went, say the ref blew the whistle, was he reacting on time, or was he sometimes hesitant? Like, did he keep playing? He didn't stop.
That's going to have to be a question.
I'd have to ask him.
It seemed to me that I never really noticed.
You didn't notice anything out of the ordinary? No.
No, I never noticed it being a handicap for him on the ice. So whether he wore some hearing aids at the time, although, that would be a good question.
Yeah. Mike have to get a hold of him.
He was a good guy, though, and he saved me. He saved me more than once where I got into trouble. He stepped in and fought some guy.
That's nice. Yeah. Morris, I want to thank you so much for this interview. This was great. We would have not known about all this that happened, especially that towel boy taking the jerseys. That's just unreal.
No, that's and I haven't seen him since that time, and I haven't heard anything about the collection either.
Yeah.
So but I do know that the two guys in Winnipeg, that their collection is like they have hundreds of items.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. That's good for them.
Yeah.
I look back and I just, why did I not do that? Could have easily collected. It would have been such an easy thing and a smart thing to do.
Yeah, and we didn't think about it. It's one of those things. Nobody thought about it. You just played the game. We focused on our hockey. That's about it. Yeah.
Focused on scoring goals.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Thank you, and you have a great weekend.
Okay, thanks, Jack.
You're welcome. Thank you.